Emperor Palpatine, ever the master manipulator, believed he had secured his reign through terror, deception, and the power of the Sith. Yet, in the shadows of his own creation, Grand Admiral Thrawn watched, calculated, and waited. He was no Sith, nor was he a man easily swayed by ideology. His allegiance was to order, true order, one that would outlive the Sith's insatiable hunger for dominance. The moment arrived above Endor. The Death Star II, Palpatine's ultimate symbol of fear, loomed in orbit, its construction nearing completion. Thrawn, stationed aboard the Chimera, observed the gathering fleets, Rebel and Imperial alike, through a holographic display. He had advised against constructing another Death Star, deeming it an inefficient use of resources. Palpatine had ignored him. But that arrogance, Thrawn knew, would be the Emperor's undoing. He had already set the pieces in motion. His most loyal officers, Captain Pelion among them, had their orders. The trap laid for the rebels would unfold just as Palpatine had foreseen, but there was an additional layer unknown to the Sith Lord. Thrawn had sent a signal to a select group within the Imperial ranks, admirals, officers, and strategists who had grown disillusioned with the Emperor's reliance on Sith mysticism. The time had come to sever the Sith's influence from the Empire, once and for all. The battle commenced. Rebel ships emerged from hyperspace, their X-Wings and Mon Calamari cruisers weaving through the Imperial blockade. On Endor's surface, the shield generator remained intact. For now. Yet Thrawn's concern was not with the immediate outcome of the battle, but with the duel that would soon unfold aboard the Death Star. He needed Vader and the Emperor to be preoccupied. Darth Vader stood before his master, his breathing heavy, his mind clouded. Luke Skywalker writhed in pain as Sith lightning coursed through his body. Palpatine's laughter echoed through the throne room. Vader hesitated. The conflict within him boiled over, the echoes of Anakin Skywalker clawing at the walls of his mind. He had watched his son suffer before, but now something felt different. The moment had come for a choice. Then, an explosion rocked the station. Red warning lights flared, sirens blared. The throne room trembled as reports flooded in through the Emperor's private comms. The fleet had been compromised. Certain Star Destroyers had turned their turbo lasers upon their own. The rebels, expecting another hopeless fight, found unexpected allies among the Imperial ranks. Palpatine's eyes burned yellow with fury. He sensed it. A presence, cold and calculating, working against him from within his own empire. "Thrawn!" he hissed. Vader's hesitation grew. He had long distrusted the Grand Admiral, though he had never found proof of treachery. Now it seemed the Chiss had made his move. Seizing the distraction, Luke reached for his lightsaber and ignited it. He swung, aiming for the Emperor. Palpatine turned with inhuman speed, his hands raised to unleash another torrent of lightning. But before the attack could come, the throne room doors burst open. Elite stormtroopers clad in midnight black armor stormed inside. These were no ordinary Imperial guards. These were Thrawn's Imperial Knights, an elite corps trained in countering both Jedi and Sith alike. The Emperor snarled, hurling lightning at the nearest trooper, but their armor absorbed the attack. Vader stepped forward, but before he could act, the Knights unleashed stun pulses. The Dark Lord of the Sith staggered, his cybernetics flickering. The betrayal was complete. Thrawn's voice crackled through the Emperor's private holoprojector.
"Your reign has reached its conclusion, my lord."
Palpatine's yellow eyes widened. Fury twisted his skeletal face, but even he, the master manipulator, had been outplayed. Vader turned to Luke. His son stood ready to fight, but against whom? The true enemy had shifted. Sidious let out another torrent of lightning, but this time, it struck Luke. The young Jedi screamed in pain. Thrawn had anticipated Palpatine's final act of defiance. Vader, watching his son in pain, let out a ragged breath. Something broke within him. With the last of his strength, he seized the Emperor in his iron grip, and with a final guttural roar, he hurled him into the abyss. The Imperial Knights stood frozen, stunned by the impossible. Darth Vader had betrayed his master. Luke gasped for air, his body still trembling. Vader knelt, weakened, his mechanical body struggling to move. He turned toward Luke, but the Knights raised their weapons. "No," Luke croaked. He helped me." The lead knight hesitated. A moment of uncertainty passed. And then Vader's mechanical breath faltered, growing ragged. With what little strength remained, He reached for his son's face, his gloved hand trembling. "Luke, you were right." The breathing stopped. The lights on Vader's suit faded. The Sith were no more. The battle in space raged on, but with the Emperor's demise and Vader's death, the chain of command had fractured. Thrawn, watching from the Chimera, seized control with swift precision. A transmission was sent across all Imperial channels.
The Emperor is dead. The Sith have fallen. The Empire endures.
His words rippled across the galaxy. Moffs and governors, once fearful of Palpatine's wrath, now faced a new reality. A new Emperor had risen, not one who ruled through fear, but through sheer strategic brilliance. With Thrawn at the helm, the Empire was no longer a decaying husk clinging to Sith rule. It was something else entirely, something greater. And so began the reign of Emperor Thrawn. Thrawn stood aboard the bridge of the Chimera, watching as the shattered remnants of both the Imperial and Rebel fleets retreated from Endor's orbit. Pellaeon stood beside him, his uniform still stained from the chaos of battle. "The war is not over," the captain said. "The rebels will not kneel so easily." Thrawn clasped his hands behind his back. His red gaze was distant, focused. "They will not need to kneel," he said. "They will come to understand." The first transmission of Emperor Thrawn's reign was sent across every open channel. He did not speak it with the cruelty of the Sith or the arrogance of the Moffs. His voice was calm, precise.
The Emperor is dead. The Sith are no more. The war that has ravaged this galaxy has been waged not for the people, but for the ambitions of men who sought to rule through fear. That is not my way. That is not the way of the Empire I now command. There will be no purges. There will be no mass executions. The war ends today. Those who resist peace will be dealt with accordingly. Those who seek stability will be welcomed. And those who dream of a republic must now ask themselves, will you fight an enemy that no longer exists, or will you build something greater?
It was not a declaration of war. It was a challenge. The rebel fleet regrouped at their fallback point, an old rendezvous near Bakura. But instead of celebration, there was discord. Leia paced inside the war room, her brow furrowed. Palpatine is dead. Vader is dead. The Empire should have collapsed. It didn't, Mon Mothma said, shaking her head. Thrawn's taking control, and he's offering peace. Peace? General Madine scoffed. It's a trick. Is it? Leia turned to him. This isn't Palpatine's empire anymore. If Thrawn wants peace, shouldn't we at least hear him out? The debate raged across the room. Admiral Akbar, normally the voice of reason, was hesitant. Thrawn is dangerous, but he is not reckless. If he wanted the rebels wiped out, he would have done so above Endor. Han leaned against the hollow table, arms crossed. So what? We're just supposed to believe he's suddenly the good guy? A new voice entered the conversation. It doesn't matter what we believe. All eyes turned to Luke Skywalker. He had remained silent since Endor, haunted by the deaths of Vader and Palpatine. He took a slow breath. Thrawn isn't like Palpatine or Vader. He doesn't rule with the Force. He rules with his mind, and that makes him even more dangerous. Leia frowned. And what do we do? Luke looked up, his expression unreadable. We find out what he really wants. Days later, a single vessel entered Imperial space. On board were Princess Leia Organa, Luke Skywalker, and a small diplomatic envoy. They were escorted to Coruscant, where the Imperial Palace still stood, though the banners of the Sith had been removed. Leia stepped into the throne room first, her heart pounding as she faced the new ruler of the Empire. Thrawn stood before them, clad in the pristine white uniform of a Grand Admiral. "Princess Organa." Thrawn greeted her with a slight bow. His glowing red eyes flickered toward Luke. "And Master Skywalker, a pleasure." Leia crossed her arms. "You said you wanted peace." "I did," Thrawn replied. "And I mean it." Luke studied him carefully. He had sensed deception before, but with Thrawn, there was nothing. No dark presence, no anger. Only calculation. Thrawn gestured to the war table at the center of the room, where a galactic map was displayed. Palpatine ruled through fear. I do not. The Empire will not use superweapons or mass genocide to maintain order. But I will not allow anarchy. Leia remained cautious. And what do you propose? Thrawn tapped the holomap, shifting the borders of the galaxy. A division. The Empire will hold the core and inner rim. The mid and outer rim will be given autonomy under a new government of your choosing. You may call it a republic, if you wish. The room fell silent. Leia, Mon Mothma, and even Han had expected deception, expected another ploy for power. But Thrawn was offering them what Palpatine never would: true separation from the Empire. You just let the Republic reform? Leia asked, skeptical. I will let it prove itself, Thrawn corrected. You claim that the Empire is the source of all evil. If your Republic can govern without corruption, without war, then I will have no need to intervene. Luke exhaled slowly. And the Jedi? Thrawn considered his words carefully. The Jedi were warriors. Warriors breed war. But knowledge is valuable. If you wish to rebuild your order, do so as scholars, not soldiers. Luke exchanged a glance with Leia. This was unexpected. Mon Mothma finally spoke. And if we refuse? Thrawn's expression did not change. Then the war continues, and you will lose. The weight of his words settled over the room. Thrawn had given them a choice, and for the first time in years, peace did not seem impossible. But could they trust him? The galaxy had not known true peace for generations. Even as Thrawn's new order began to stabilize, fault lines cracked beneath its surface. The former Rebel Alliance struggled to unify under the fragile banner of the New Republic. Some welcomed Thrawn's offer of peace, while others, like Saw Gerrera's partisans and exiled warlords, refused to accept any form of imperial rule, no matter the leader. But a far greater threat lurked beyond the known regions of space. On Exegol, a dark resurgence was underway. The Sith Eternal, remnants of Palpatine's secret order, had begun to stir. Unwilling to accept the death of the Sith, they searched for a leader who could bring darkness upon the galaxy once more. They found their champion in Darth Sidious's hidden contingency plan, a secret Sith acolyte trained in the depths of the unknown regions, waiting for the right moment to strike. His name was Darth Voron. A former Inquisitor who had been sent to Exegol before the fall of the Empire, Voron had learned the ancient Sith arts in secrecy. Unlike Palpatine, who had ruled through deception, Voron believed in absolute conquest. He had no interest in politics, no desire for manipulation. He was a warlord in the purest sense, one who sought to bring the Sith into open war against the galaxy itself. With his cultists and the hidden fleets of the Sith Eternal, he struck. The first target was Quad, the Empire's greatest shipyard. Without warning, massive star destroyers of unknown design emerged from hyperspace. Sith loyalists, disguised as Imperial workers, sabotaged Kuat's planetary defenses. The shipyards burned as the Sith fleet overwhelmed Imperial forces. The attack was brutal, leaving the once mighty Kuat drive yards in flames. News of the assault reached Coruscant. In his command center, Thrawn studied the holo footage of the attack with cold intensity. They have been preparing for years, he murmured. Pelion clenched his fists. Kuat was one of our most secure facilities. If they could infiltrate it, they will strike again, Thrawn said. He turned to the war table, recalculating his strategy. But the attack on Kuat was only the beginning. Within weeks, the Sith launched coordinated strikes across the mid-rim. Systems once aligned with the Republic fell to dark warriors wielding red-bladed lightsabers. Entire fleets defected, their captains drawn in by the promises of the Sith. The galaxy now stood on the precipice of a three-way war. The Empire of Thrawn, built on strategy and discipline. The New Republic, struggling to unite and defend its fragile freedom. And the Sith Eternal, hell-bent on absolute dominance. Luke Skywalker stood at the heart of the New Republic War Council, facing a decision that would shape the future of the galaxy. Mon Mothma and Admiral Akbar stood beside him, debating the impossible. Thrawn is still the enemy, Medine argued. He may not be a Sith, but he is still an Imperial. If we align with him, we lose everything we've fought for. Akbar shook his head. We don't have a choice. The Sith are too strong. Leia looked at Luke. "What do you think?" Luke hesitated. He had seen darkness before. He had felt the pull of the dark side. But this was something different. He turned to Leia. "I need to speak to Thrawn." Hours later, Luke's X-Wing touched down on Coruscant. He entered the Imperial Palace where Thrawn awaited him. "You wish to speak of an alliance," Thrawn said, already deducing Luke's purpose. Luke met his gaze. "We both know the Sith are the real threat. If we don't work together, they will destroy everything." Thrawn inclined his head. "Agreed." There was no hesitation, no negotiation, just understanding. The war had begun, and Thrawn, ever the strategist, knew that only a united front could defeat the darkness. The first test of the alliance came on Mandalore. Once a proud warrior world, Mandalore had become a battleground once more. The Sith, seeking to claim the ancient planet, unleashed their dark warriors upon it. But the Mandalorians, now under the leadership of Bo-Katan, refused to kneel. Thrawn deployed his fleet to assist. Side by side, Imperial forces and New Republic commandos fought to repel the Sith invasion. Luke and Leia fought on the ground, leading a battalion of Mandalorians against Sith warriors. Blades clashed, the Force crackled in the air, and the sands of Mandalore ran red. At the height of battle, Darth Voron himself descended onto the battlefield. Clad in black armor, his red lightsaber ignited with a snap hiss. He tore through Mandalorian ranks with terrifying speed. Luke moved to intercept. Their blades met in a blinding clash of light and shadow. Voron was no mere Sith apprentice. He was something greater. The duel raged, but in the end, it was not Luke who defeated him. It was Thrawn's mind. The Grand Admiral had anticipated the Sith's tactics, setting a trap within Mandalore's deep underground tunnels. As Voron pressed his attack, the ground beneath him collapsed. He fell into the abyss, lost to the darkness. With their leader gone, the Sith retreated. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. Thrawn and Luke led a combined Imperial Republic fleet to the heart of the Sith, Exegol. As they emerged from hyperspace, they found themselves outnumbered. Sith warships, enhanced with dark alchemy, moved in formation. Force-powered weapons lashed out, ripping through Star Destroyers and Mon Calamari cruisers alike. But Thrawn had predicted this. He had studied the art of the Sith, their patterns, their arrogance, their belief in power above all else, and so he had laid a trap. Hidden among the fleet were Chiss-cloaked vessels. As the battle reached its peak, these ships emerged, striking at the Sith's blind spots. On the surface, Luke led the final assault. Jedi survivors and Imperial knights stormed the Sith stronghold. The battle reached its climax within the dark temple of Exegol, where the last remnants of the Sith Eternal prepared their final ritual. Thrawn, ever the strategist, had no interest in superstition. He ordered the temple destroyed. The Sith made their last stand, but it was not enough. Exegol fell. The Sith were no more. With the Sith defeated, the war ended. Thrawn, true to his word, did not claim total dominion. Instead, he brokered a lasting peace. The New Republic governed the Mid and Outer Rim. The Empire retained the core worlds, but no longer ruled with oppression. The Jedi, under Luke's guidance, did not become warriors, but scholars, ensuring knowledge was preserved. Thrawn did not seek a throne. He sought stability. In his own words,
"Order is the foundation of all things. Without it, we are nothing."
And with that, the galaxy turned a page, not bound by the rule of Sith or Jedi, but by understanding. The rise of the Chiss Empire changed everything.